I'm changing a 20-foot shipping container into an office, which means that I'm going to have to attach some wood, 2x4s, to some steel. Now, I've been doing this sort of thing for a long time, and every time I've come across this, I've used a screw like this, and I've called it a self-tapper. That's only half the story. This is much more than just a self-tapper. This is a self-drilling, self-tapping screw. Let me show you the other screws that I've just been educated on that are similar, but in many cases different. I went down to my local Magic hardware store, Handyman Hardware. They are a throwback to earlier times. And Shelley and Wayne set me up with every kind of self-drilling and self-tapping screw they've got in there, and they've got some. So I want to point out what will most often come across your radar as far as the time that you need to go through metal and attach to wood, and that is on roofing, on a tin roof. Now, this is a piece of used Delta rib roofing, probably 22 gauge, fairly thin. And this is a roofing screw, a metal roofing screw. It's a self-piercing or needlepoint cut tip. It has a little cut right there which will sort of cut its way through the metal, but not make such a big hole in the wood that the threads won't hold. So you're up on the roof and you're walking along very carefully, choosing your shots. You bring it into contact. That needle point gets a grip right away. You push on it pretty hard. The neoprene washer seals it up, and it's waterproof for about 10 years. Now, the other use case is maybe you're screwing through metal roofing, maybe through some insulation, into some steel purlins. This is no help on steel purlins. You need a self-drilling, self-tapping, something like this, maybe longer, neoprene washer. But the idea is that you can't use a self-driller into wood because the hole is so big that the threads won't bite. This is a machine screw, and that is a wood screw. Now let me muddy the water just a little more. When you have exposed fasteners through Delta rib or any of the other corrugated patterns, with the neoprene washer into wood, you use a screw like this. But if you're using a lock seam or a standing seam so that the screw is covered by the next sheet, you want a lower profile head, because a hex head like this and a neoprene washer like that is going to put a bulge in the metal that goes over the top. So you use something like this number 8, 1-inch self-piercing lath screw, L-A-T-H-E. It has a very flat washered head. You see that? That doesn't stand up very tall, and they make them that are even flatter, but that'll do it under lock seam. Now, if you're not just attaching, sheet metal to purlins or sheet metal to sheet metal, lighter duty, less structural connections, flashing situations up on a roof, if it's not light work, if it's heavy work, you're running a heavier screw into a heavier substructure. Maybe, let's use this as an example. Let's say this is a joist under a trailer deck. This is 1/8 inch mild steel. And you want to attach some decking, trailer decking, to a trailer frame. Well, there's a couple ways to think about this. You could use the screw that I'm going to use out there in my shipping container, which will drill and tap. Let me do that. I'll run through this nail hole. There we go. Trailer deck. That pulls so hard now you can pull the head of the screw all the way through the 2x4 if you're not careful. Look at that. That's the kind of connection you get out of that. Now maybe that's good enough. Maybe that's good enough. But what if what you're tying is a life safety issue? Like it's a ledger in a red iron frame building and you're going to be hanging a bunch of joists off, and you can't just use a little soft steel, that's probably a grade 5 screw. It's going to be hot. But it's got to be something strong. So these black anodized machine screws are self-tapping and not self-drilling. So you've got to drill a pilot like you're in a machine shop, right? Or you're building a machine. You got to drill a pilot hole, and then they will cut their own threads. I'm going to do it with the smaller ones. But you can visualize it. If you're tying something on strong, you could run a pilot through a piece of 1/2-inch plate, and then these things would self-tap their way right in. Let me try that. I'm going to use these 1/4-20s, F-type decking, self-tapping screws. Let's try it. So these are 1/4-20s, F-type, black anodized, grade 8 at least. Wayne told me that these might be grade 12. They're super hard. They're a machine screw, and sometimes you can hold wood to steel with a machine screw. I drilled my rough pilots, my holes, my through holes through this 1/2-inch plywood. Now I'm going to drill a 13/64. I think that's about the right pilot size into the steel and see if they like it. Let me drill the pilot for the steel. Man, a keyless chuck is a keyless chuck. There we go. Let's do that again right next to it. Now that would hold decking down on a trailer or anything else. Very strong. Better than these self-drilling, self-tapping in terms of strength and probably rust resistance and everything else. So you notice I could have gone ahead on these until it went all the way through the plywood and came up tight against the steel itself, because these are strong, they're strong. But little sheet metal screws in general, if the screws you pick up are kind of silvery and they've been electroplated and they look like they're light duty, it's because they're light duty. So don't get carried away. I mean, you're not going to strip these if you're turning them by hand, but you put a 3/16 hex driver on that with any kind of a cordless, you can snap these off or strip the threads. So you got to use a little finesse with machine screws and machine type screws when you're running into, tough substrates. So here's one thing we'll just throw in here. This I brought back with me from the hardware store. They've had it hanging in there. I've admired it for a long time. It's a thread checker. And maybe you've picked up bolts or taken a bolt out of a machine and you lost the nut and you don't know what it is, and nothing in your shop fits. And you go down to the hardware store just to have them verify whether it is a little bitty metric or a little bitty SAE or what it is. These things have got the male side, the female side. For instance, you pick this up off the floor of the shop. What is it? Is it a 7/16? No, it's not 7/16. Is it a 3/8 24? No, it's a 3/8 16 coarse. So it's nice to be able to check either the nut side or the bolt side on whatever it is you're trying to match. So let's say that a screw head is not going to pull hard enough on what you're trying to attach to save somebody's life. You need a hex head with a washer. Well, you can buy hex head screws with the washer integral with the head that will then run in and self-tap just like those other guys. That's a great connection. So find the best darn hardware store you can find, and they usually are not found in a big box store, unless they happen to be the White Buffalo that has somebody in there that knows what they're talking about. But there's a wider range of fasteners than you or I can even imagine. And look just a little longer and pay just a little more attention, and you'll find exactly, and I mean exactly, what you need to get through whatever it is you're attaching and into whatever it is you're attaching to. So before I wrap this up, here are some of the other screws that Shelley gave me when I was in it, Handyman. Number 8, 3/4 hex drill point. You can probably visualize that. Hex head, 3/4 inch long, drill point. Going to drill into steel and then tighten right up. Here are number 8 neoprene washers. So you can make a screw to fasten down corrugated roofing even if you didn't buy corrugated roofing screws. Let's get that out of there. Okay, so this is an example of what comes from the factory like this for screwing down your roofing. If you're putting together a one-off or you need a very nice stainless washer holding a very thick neoprene washer, there you go. You can put together any combination of those things if you have the right hardware store for attaching to metal. Here we have number 8 3/4 drill point, pan head. And the heads of screws are important for the fit and for the finish and for the appearance. So here are pan head screws, Phillips with a drill point. Here are number 8 3/4 flathead drill points, much like the ones I just put up there. Oh, I see, different head. Look at the difference between flathead and pan head. So here's one of the last ones. Much like what I'm using in the shipping container, we're going back out there, but it drills the hole. These little wings do something as it goes through the hole. Maybe it cleans it, and then it has that cut for continuing to help with cutting the threads. But it's aluminum, so you can use it for attaching, a steel door in an exterior condition where you do not want rust to start coming out and streaking the jamb. Maybe in overhead door applications out in the weather. Aluminum, zinc, steel, you get the point. Pay a little attention, find somebody that can educate you, and get the right fastener. Let's go out and run one of these into that Connex. So we just had a look at a lot of screws, right? I still think that this self-drilling, self-tapping, Phillips head, steel, zinc-coated, whiz-bang decking screw is the thing to use. Let's see how it works down here in a sturdy position where I'm not falling off a ladder while I'm trying to demonstrate this thing. Through the wood. Let's see how we go through the steel. Just like that. Pretty tight. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.